Hello YouTube, this is Android Mafia. I appreciate you stopping by to join the family. We're taking a look here at the very first pack of my very first draft of Core Set 2021. And while I think this is probably a pretty obvious pick as to what we should take, we end up very clearly taking the Radha or Radha, or I'm not honestly sure how to pronounce her name. Now the print on these cards is pretty small here, so it's a good chance that you may not recognize everything that these cards do. But the Heart of Keld, she is a powerful card, 3 mana, 3/3. On your turn, she has first strike, and she lets you play lands from the top of your deck, and you can pay 6 mana to give her +X/+X, where X is your land count. Now there are other cards in this pack that are pretty good. There's the Gnarled Sage near the bottom if I want to stay on these colors. There's the Capture Sphere if we want to kind of push in that direction. Grasp of Darkness is an excellent removal spell. So there's a lot going on here that I think would be worth seeing. But we're going to go ahead and kind of push this forward. To be clear though, there were audio issues with this draft. This is why I'm doing this post commentary. There's the full screen image here of the Heart of Keld and what it does. Very good card. When I went into this draft, I told myself I really wanted to find something in my first pack that would push me in a direction. And I'm really glad to have opened the Heart of Keld, because a lot of times the rares aren't always that exciting, or you open like a land for your rare. You know, if you open a temple in your first pack, it's sort of a, okay, I mean, most people probably have the temples already in Arena. And if you don't, you still don't want to grab that as your pick because you're trying to win. And a pack one, pick one temple feels really bad. So really happy with the Heart of Keld here. But I'm going to run this commentary through as we move along this draft process. In the comments below, let me know how you feel about this commentary after the fact, once you make it through a bit. I will also include in the description some kind of timestamps here. Now, mentioning rare lands, this pack had a Fabled Passage, which I'm not really trying to take as a second pick card. I hover over the Turret Ogre for a bit. It's a pretty solid mid-rangey card, 4 mana with 4 power, and it has reach, which is really good for utility, but I want finishers early a lot of the times when I'm kind of going big stompy. So I want to grab this Hellkite Punisher because I think the Turret Ogre probably comes back, and the Punisher can win games by itself. The fact that it has fire breathing is pretty powerful, and you can see me here taking a look at my other options that may come back to me that can help inform my later picks. If I see a lot of the same cards being passed to me, that's good information to have. Now for our third pick, we can see a couple of cards that we'd really like to get. And now you'll see me hover over cards because there are a lot of new ones. But Scorching Dragonfire is actually one of the picks that I wish I had made in this pack. It's one of the few regrets that I have throughout the night is that I didn't grab them when I could. In this case, I'm still on the I want big stompy plan, so I went ahead and grabbed the Bone Pit Brute. In retrospect, the Bone Pits didn't impress me, but maybe they're okay in the right build. This pack, again, not really a worthwhile rare. I do see another Capture Sphere, which means that there's a chance that I probably could have run some sort of blue deck instead. But the Dilophosaur, it's a Death Touch creature that trades up really well, and it can be very aggressive if you have other big hitters in your deck. And that's kind of what we're going for here. So we assess a couple of the other cards, we take a look at kind of where they're at and what they're doing, just to know what options we have coming back around. I didn't do a lot of like pre-looking at cards. I'd seen a lot of spoilers, but not knowing what all is in the set can make drafting a little difficult. Now the Mauler is really good, but this Scourge, anytime I see an X-based creature in a draft, if I'm in those colors, I almost always take them. The idea being that they are both early game creatures and late game creatures, and the Scourge actually grows bigger the more you put counters on other creatures, so that's a pretty nice thing to see happen. Now we see another Hellkite Punisher come around, and you see me think about it. I don't think that was a good choice if we had taken it there. I personally love combat tricks like Titanic Growth. They're big hitters. They can push extra damage through, especially if you have tramplers, especially if you have flyers like the Hellkite Punisher. But they also serve as just removal spells. Your opponent double blocks on a guy, you Titanic Growth. Maybe you get a 2-for-1 with just one pump spell. This pack was a little less exciting, and it was also very clear to me that I could have gone blue-black, because you see another Grasp of Darkness come around. I see the Teferi's Protege. I'm not sure what the people to the side of me are picking at this point, because I feel like the only things not coming back to me are good white spells at this point. But that late of a Grasp of Darkness tells me there's probably not a lot of people at the table wanting to go into black just yet, or they're expecting it to wheel. Maybe there were just better things in this pack by far. That's the downside when you make those, assumptions. So we go in and we're looking pretty okay. We see a pack that has a couple of playables and a land that we can use. Truffle Snout, I feel like, is a trap depending on the deck you're playing. And I fell for that trap. I ended up not playing the Truffle Snouts at all, and I still had an excellent night. I think if my deck was more counter-oriented, if it was something like a Selesnya build where +1/+1 counters are a big deal, then Truffle Snout is very good. But Truffle Snout ended up being not very impressive by the time I was done picking all the other cards that I had to pick. Now, I will say also that whenever you have a new draft especially, you're going to see a lot of people hovering and waiting and not sure what to pick and that kind of thing. And that's true for myself as well. But in this case, there was a little bit of downtime along the way while people were trying to make those calls. Gnarled Sage seemed to be the easy pick here. It's the only big body in the pack, and I don't care a lot for Burn Bright because my deck currently doesn't run a lot of creatures in the sense that I'm not going to have a huge board most of the time. Usually I'll have, 3 creatures maybe that are all decently sized, but this is not a deck that plans to go wide so much as go big. So it just felt not great. This pack, I don't really like spells that are just life gain, and that run afoul is very specific. And we're talking best of 1 here, so those are both like sideboard cards. So I just take the land just in case I decide to splash for white later in the 2nd and 3rd pack. And these are the 2 cards I'm just okay passing here. It's not best of 3, so I don't really want them. All right, we're down to almost no real choice here. I hover over Gorehorns every time I see them. I think about the Meteorites a couple times, but I start to think that my curve is a little rough here. I'm not really excited about a 5 mana that has 3 toughness. So I take the Prismite as sort of like, maybe I get mana screwed in a match. It's a 2-power 2/1 creature, or sorry, a 2-cost 2/1 creature. This pack, Furious Rise might have actually been fine to take here. I don't end up doing it. I see another Burn Bright. I'm not excited about it. I ignore it almost completely. And the Ranger's Guile, it just seems, 1 mana to essentially counter a spell of your opponents. They try to kill something. If I enter combat and attack and they say, oh, destroy that tapped creature, I go, actually no, and my creature gets bigger. Ranger's Guile is pretty solid. Crash Through, the only playable in this pack. It's a cycling card, gives your creatures trample. I mean, it's a great card to pick near the very end of the pack. Here we actually have a tough choice. The sword is playable, but the Forgotten Sentinel is a 4 mana 4-powered creature, so it does interact well with Dilophosaur and with pretty much anything else that we might find that relies on 4-powered creatures. All right, if this was a sideboarded card, it'd be pretty good, but Return of Nature wasn't super exciting. Now, Mazemind Tome is a card that I personally like, but it's very clunky, very slow, very much about the long-term grind of the game, and that's not what I want to be doing, which is ironic because my first game ends up being very long. But I see a few good cards. This pack is pretty weak otherwise for us. It's heavy blue-white and a couple black spells. But let me tell you, Llanowar Visionary is amazing. It is a 3-for-1 card. A body, it draws a card, and it ramps. This is one of the best commons in the set, in my personal opinion. I don't have a really professional opinion here, but I think Llanowar Visionary is so well situated that if you're even considering playing green in the first pack or so, grab the Visionaries when you can. Now, I get that thought here for a moment. I rush over to it and go, well, maybe, but this Leafkin Avenger is a champion. 4 mana for 4-powered creature, pretty solid. Taps for a green for each creature you have that has powers 4 or greater. And that's a lot of what I'm emphasizing here. It also can burn them based on its power if you have enough mana, which this deck is slowly starting to come into. There's a couple things here I want to come back. Maybe the Ogres, maybe the Ranger's Guile. This pack is deceptively heavy on red, but in reality, there are only a couple of cards in this pack I would want to play. Well, maybe 3 cards. The Gnarled Sage, obviously, I'm lingering there. It's a big body. It can do some good things down the road alongside something like a Crash Through. The Pyroling and the Goblin Wizardry are really more suited to like an Is It style deck. Now I look at Traitorous Greed here as a very powerful card. You can steal one of their creatures and hit them with it, your traditional act of treason, but it also adds back 2 mana of any color to your mana pool, which means you have a lot more flexibility in tossing down a Titanic Growth or a Sure Strike, or if you get something that has an activated ability that you want to throw down. Or maybe if you pick up a Scorching Dragonfire, you can go, you have 2 blockers, I take the big one, I Dragonfire the other one, and I swing through. Now this pack, again, a little weak for us in colors, but there are a couple of solid picks. There is no hesitation in my mind. I think at this point I'm talking to chat a little bit about these things, so I take a minute to actually make the pick. But Soulseer, 3 mana instant speed, 5 damage to a creature is very powerful, and the fact that it can hit a Planeswalker and that it doesn't care about Indestructible is amazing. That's like a Gideon's worst nightmare, basically. Although that's not a concern anymore by this point in the story. Gorehorn, again, I see it, I think about it just out of curiosity. It's just not appealing to me. Short Sword, I usually make commentary on things like that, of just, it's a cute card. We see another Gnarled Sage in this pack, and then we see 3 good utility spells, as well as the Prismite. My curve is getting better at this point. I'm still missing things around the 5-drop slot, so I think I probably take the second Sage here. Trackdown is a card that's probably very good, but I wanted to dedicate myself to creatures, a little bit of removal, and a little bit of pump. I really don't want to spend a lot of time trying to set up the boards. Like for me, setting up the board is putting a body on that board. So I would rather play Llanowar Visionary and just dig deeper, get mana, that sort of thing, than play a sorcery that's going to maybe get me a card that's useful. Now, I don't have a lot of removal, so the Turn to Slag is very powerful for me here. It is a 5 mana, 5 damage spell. It also has the upside, though, of destroying any equipments that might be attached to them, so if they have their own short swords, things like that. And the rest of the pack just wasn't as interesting to me. I need things that can fight off their bigger blockers. Likewise, this pack, I see another Turn to Slag, I go, well, sure. And then a third one comes to me. And I ask the chat at this point, like, do I really want to take this Turn to Slag, or do I just want to take the Titanic Growth? Because me personally, I think Titanic Growth is actually just as valuable. And there's a point where I already have 4 or 5 drops. But somebody in chat, I'm pretty sure, told me, yeah, just grab the other Turn to Slag. And I said, okay. And I just took it, which I regret. I think that Titanic Growth would have been much better. Here, Turret Ogre is probably better than the Sniper. Sniper does fit the curve better because I need more early game stuff, but this deck is really more of a go big, go home kind of thing, and the Sniper just doesn't fit that build very well. If I think in terms of top decks, I'd much rather see the Ogre. Here, same thing, we have another of the 3 mana for 2 Ogres to look at, and that's actually the first time we get to pick one. We end up with 3, I believe, by the end of the draft, which is actually pretty solid. And then I think in this pack here, we see that we already have 2 Gnarled Sages, and we just picked up 3 Turn to Slags in a row. We're pretty okay picking something for the early part of our curve. There used to be a mentality in my head of pick the best card in the pack every time. But sometimes the best card in the pack is the card that fits your curve, not the card that does more. So you do want to be careful about that when you're drafting, and it's something that I've had to really work on, because there's an old school mentality of mine of just get all the big creatures, all the big dudes, and then your deck doesn't really do anything, and you just die. So we get past another Ogre there, a small Ogre, and that's pretty nice for us. The Radiant Fountain that comes around is kind of funny, but it's not really something I want to play. And then there's no question, like you see me immediately snap on Scavenging Ooze. One, it's a powerful Magic card from Magic's history. It's always going to be a good Magic card. It pairs really well with my Hydra, because when you put counters on the Ooze, it puts counters on the Hydra. It lets me eat things from their graveyards, which admittedly I'm not sure how thematically that's relevant in this set, but that's always just been a good thing in the past, so there's no question about it. I just grab it. Here we see a couple of things we could pick, but I think the best card in this pack is either Track Down or the Onake Ogre. The Track Down is still kind of meh. The Crash Through, I think I'm looking at these two because I've picked up a couple of those gnarled dudes. The Ogre was the better pick here. I don't end up even thinking about playing Track Down by the end of it. Now this is an amazing red uncommon. If you are drafting red and you see this card, it is unlikely that you will not take it. It is a 2-mana 2/2 with prowess, and you can pay a red and sack it to deal damage to a creature or planeswalker. Immolator is just the best card in this pack. I actually think it's the best card in this pack overall. I don't like Goblin Arsonist, by the way. There's a point later on where I have a chance to pick another one, and I definitely just pass it. Goblin Arsonist probably is okay in some cases, but you can see even in this pack a bunch of 1/3s, 1/2s, things like that. I say that, and then we see this little wing mirror come around that's a 2/1. But there's so many 2/2s and 1/3s and things like that. The Goblin Arsonist will rarely get there. Visionary, Titanic Growth, and Truffle Snout are probably the picks in this pack, depending on what deck you're running. I think Visionary is the best card for me to pick here. There's a small part of my brain that anytime I see another Hellkite Punisher, I'm like, maybe I run 2 dragons? And it probably would have been okay if I had not already picked so many other, like the Bone Pit Brute and things like that. Another pack that doesn't have a ton for us, but the Llanowar Visionary, hands down, best card for us here. Like, just no question. This pack literally is just Truffle Snout. I mean, that's it. I don't like Burn Bright. I don't think it's a good card for this deck. I think Burn Bright might be okay for a Boros style build. Here, our picks are Truffle Snout or Colossal Dreadmaw. Dreadmaw is a 6/6 with Trample for 6 mana, so easy pick. There's really no doubt about that. The Trample is what really put that pick way over the top for us. We see another Visionary here, and my brain goes, maybe we don't need 4. And so I grab the Truffle Snout thinking, or actually I lied, hang on. I think this pack I might grab the Brute. Because I look at my top end and I go, well, maybe I don't need 4 Visionaries. I think I would have taken the 4th Visionary in retrospect. Because I think I cut the extra Brute here. Having said that, we have a lot of playables. This was a very difficult deck to cut cards out of. This pack we have an Ogre, which I would like to grab, but Invigorating Surge calls my attention because I have the Hydra. Invigorating Surge even has a Hydra in the art. It lets you double the +1/+1 counters on the creature that you hit, which means the Hydra would double its entire power. So, you know, I thought about the Wombo combo, and then I get rewarded anyway by being past an Ogre right after, so it plays out pretty well. That's the 3rd Ogre that I get. I would have liked 4, but this pack, I actually take the Spider, because the Spider is good against, like, the Pegasus decks. Even if they pump their Pegasus, they've got to pump it pretty well to get it to fight through. Here, I'm sitting on 2 Truffle Snouts already, and I only have, I think, 1 Titanic Growth before this. So I think it's pretty clear here that Titanic Growth is a pretty good pick. We don't like Burn Bright, but it's probably better than the Wall. I don't remember the pick off the top of my head. Looks like Burn Bright's where I'm lingering. Yeah, so I figure Combat Trick is better than Wall, and then of course we just kind of have to pick what we can pick here. So we're going to skip to the final look of the deck here in just a second. Alright, so this ends up being the final build that I go with, and this is where you can look back and you can make judgments. Let me know, in fact, in the comments down below if you think I should have put any of these other cards back in. So for example, Turn to Slag, I had a 3rd one. There's a chance that maybe I'm supposed to run that, maybe instead of the Bone Pit Brute. I think the Bone Pit Brute was rather underwhelming, so the 3rd Turn to Slag, maybe that was a good choice. I think there's an argument that maybe if I could have squeezed that 3rd Onake Ogre in instead of maybe the Turret Ogre, or maybe even instead of the Dilophosaur, or something just to get more pressure on the board. I don't know for sure if that's right or wrong. I did cut a few cards that I originally thought I would play, namely the Ranger's Guile and the Crash Through. Crash Through is a great way to push some damage, but I kind of had the thought process that there would be a lot of games where it really turned out to be just a 1-mana draw card, and I was already having trouble cutting cards in the deck. As you can tell, I ended up playing a 44 card deck, which is really greedy and really aggressive. But I got to a point where I just liked all the cards I had still, My curve felt fine. I had a lot of combat tricks to kind of work with and a lot of burn or interaction. So I had 3 real major removal spells in the Soul Seer and 2 Turn to Slags. The Traitorous Greed is like a pseudo removal spell if they're on kind of their last leg, so to speak. 2 Titanic Growths and a Sure Strike, and the Invigorating Surge turned out it was also an instant. So 4 instant speed combat tricks, and then 3 removal spells, 1 pseudo. So like a lot of interactivity, and then I just had a lot of good bodies right around that 3 and 4 drop with a couple heavy hitters to follow up. So I think down curving just a little from the Bone Pit Brute might have been correct, but this is where we ended up. We only had a few plays in the first couple of turns, but most games it was turn 3 Visionary or Ogre, and then just slam your big things after that. And so if your opponent didn't have a very aggressive deck, which most of mine did not, this has seemed pretty solid to me. So leave your comments down below. Let me know if there's any cards I should have cut in your opinion. Let me know if there are any cards that you think were good enough that I left out. You see I took the Truffle Snouts out as well. I think this deck does not deserve Truffle Snout, quite honestly. So let's go ahead and jump into the first game though. Let's take a look and see what that looked like. Now for this first game, I may cut through just a little bit, kind of bounce around. I don't want to spend forever because this game ends up being very gummed down. Now this starting hand, I have 3 mountains, 2 playable spells, and an otherwise good hand if I see a green land in the first 3 turns. So I have 2 to 3 draw steps to draw a forest, and this hand feels very good to me. My opponent takes a little bit longer to make their decision about whether or not they want to keep or mulligan. I think realistically speaking, they take a little bit of time to change their Fox, and I go, okay, well, here's mine too. Just because we're just flexing on each other, I guess. But once they kind of let me go here, this is a pretty straightforward hand. My first 2 turns are just going to almost always be play land, pass turn, play land, pass turn. And then you see me get rewarded immediately with a forest off the top. I don't play it just because I want to hide that green just a little longer, just in case. So they drop down with a pretty solid white creature here. And so what I want to do is actually kind of skip ahead a little because the first few turns are not super interesting. All right, we have a couple turns ahead here. My opponent's played an Animal Sanctuary, which is kind of cool. I've now developed my hand a little bit. I've drawn into another Visionary, and we see my opponent start to put a little bit of power on the board. They kind of actually are matching me power for power. Nobody's making any major plays just yet. Both of us have drawn a couple of extra cards, and we've developed our smaller bodies on the board. But nothing too crazy's gone down yet. Now we draw the Hydra, we start to think that we got a pretty good chance now to make some waves, because we can play quite a few cards now. We're sitting on 7 mana here, so we either play a 6/6 Hydra, or we can drop that down like the Gnarled Sage and maybe make an aggressive attack, or we can throw out the Ogre and Soul Sea or something. And so you can see me kind of thinking that through, and ultimately I decide that the Gnarled Sage is just a better middle ground. It's bigger than anything they're doing yet, so it means that they have to start committing something to the board. And I'm in a position where I'm not even all that worried about what they're doing. I know I have big follow-ups, so I actually bait them here with the Llanowar Visionaries. I give them a chance to trade because it would eat one of their mana, and it would take down a trampling creature of theirs that has a lot of high utility. And so I think if they're willing to make this block, I'm willing to let it happen. Now, we get I don't want to say blown out here, because it's not a big deal. I was actually okay losing one of my Visionaries to see what they have. The Visionary essentially ate this feat of resistance out of their hand, which would have been so much worse for me to face if they had played that blocking something like my Scourge instead. Now, ironically, they picked red because it was too big to die to the Visionary anyway. But I have no problem eating a resistance there. That Visionary had already replaced itself. I don't see any reason why that would be a problem. My opponent is playing green-white. We see the Truffle Snout. Was something I recommended earlier was that maybe a green-white deck was a better place for it. And Tempered Veteran lets you put counters on creatures that already have counters on them. So they pair really well together. My opponent's sitting on a single white mana at that point. I get the feeling he's just wanting to pump somebody this turn. And so there are moments like this where you have to deliberate. Do you attack into the board, offer a potential trade between, you know, 2 of his creatures for my Gnarled Sage, which actually feels like a pretty okay thing to do. But we get to a point in this match where it feels better to put more things down on the board and interact with my opponent more than to worry about trying to slam a single large creature. Because my opponent's playing enough little guys to kind of just chump, and the Scourge does not have trample, and I don't have a way to give it trample. So a safe attack here for me, there's very little they can do that I'm aware of to blow this out. They do have the mana, I guess, for another Feat of Resistance. So there's a chance, I think at some point in this match, they do that to me, actually. Let's see if that happens here again. Okay, so next to damage. This is me wondering what they have. I think when I made this attack, I also disregarded the fact that they had the Llanowar Visionary mana. And so they get to put another counter on it, and there's a thought where I go, okay, I get to 2-for-1 them here. And actually, in a way, I get to 3-for-1 them, although the Citizen training did draw them a card earlier. So now, although I didn't do any damage, I managed to get their most utility creature out of their deck. I got their second Feat of Resistance out of their hand, and I'm still winning the race on the board. We have almost the same number of cards in hand. There's not really a lot that I feel too uncomfortable about until this hits the board. The Death Touch is the reason that this game gets gummed up, in my opinion, because I'm a little hesitant to attack into it. I think I made some mistakes here, though, in the sense that I wasn't willing to commit more heavily. So drawing the land was a little unfortunate because we don't really need it at this point. It does add a counter to our Scourge, so there's an argument that that's okay. But the Invigorating Surge and the Titanic Growth just aren't doing much when you have a Dilophosaur on the other side of the board. We really want a Sure Strike so we can get that first strike, or a turn to Slag to kill the Death Touch creature. And obviously we haven't seen that at all. And the amusing thing in this fight is, if you remember back to the beginning of the game, we saw that we had all red mana and a couple of red spells to cast, but since then we've almost exclusively drawn green spells. And we actually needed a lot of our red spells here. So the only real play I have, I guess, is playing the Scourge, but there's a part of me in retrospect that wonders if maybe I should have attacked with the Gnarled Sage, because they might have traded their Dilophosaur for it, and this game would probably have been a little bit more back and forth as opposed to just kind of staring at each other. Because this game, the board gets out of control. In fact, we're going to go ahead and skip ahead just a little bit, because we don't have any real interaction for a while. All right, so you can see the board state's gotten a little bit more crowded. I have a Leafkin Avenger here, which is the main reason that I'm now thinking that maybe I'm still in this game. My opponent's starting to develop a board that's going to be very hard to keep up with. But Leafkin Avenger gives me a chance to get some damage in over the top. And you see me thinking about it here with the Invigorating Surge, because I'm doing some math. If I Surge the Leafkin Avenger, it now has 6 power. It grows my Scourge. And then on the end of one of their turns, I can Leafkin Avenger them for 6 damage. Alright, so the final stages of the game, our board got gummed up just a little bit more. They played a Saber-Tooth Mauler. They decided to put a counter on it to make their bodies bigger. And I'm not sure at this point if they are just doing everything they can. I don't know if they see the writing on the wall and they're just kind of just doing what they can do. But I used the Leafkin Avenger and make quite a lot of mana here. And then I go in and I say, okay, let's go ahead and activate its other ability for 6 damage. It was very important to me that they had tapped out here and that they had played out their cards. If they had kept a card in their hand, I might not have used the Leafkin Avenger. Because if they could have had destroy target tapped creature for 2 white, like a white mana and 1 of any color, and they could actually kill the Avenger before the mana actually goes into the mana pool, and I wouldn't be able to activate the ability. So they could have bluffed me there into being too patient, but by playing out and tapping out, I realized that I was able to just clear the game out. And so on this turn, I think here, Yeah, Titanic Growth, and I think, I could be wrong. Yeah, they concede, realizing that I have the lethal 10 damage there. So we see the writing on the wall much earlier in the game if they don't see removal spells, and that's just kind of where we ended up. So the next games, we're actually about to switch over to natural audio of the stream itself, and it's going to be all authentic in the moment instead of after the fact. All right, we're facing off against King Dragon. Oh god. It's basically the same problem. I'm gonna mulligan once. Alright. I hate to get rid of this guy. He's so good. But unfortunately, I need spells that do things right now. Look at this guy gaining life right away. That's cute. Alright, I do feel better, one, about finding another top-end card, and two, about my opponent not doing anything yet. But if he hits me with a mindrot, I'm gonna be really sad. Oh, he missed a land. Guys, he missed a land drop. And then I'm ramping and drawing a card in this turn. But he could land and, like, mindrot, and I'll be sad. Oh, no. Okay, so how do I punish him the fastest? Guess... I don't know if that's right, but we need to just go ahead and start getting damage in. The Dilophosaur or the Ogre might be better here, but the Dilophosaur's only good if I still have the Ogre. So I'm a little worried about... Man. I think we just all attack. I don't really think I try to play around much here. I just play things. Destroy a tapped creature. Okay. In that case... Yeah, I mean, we just resolve that. Post-combat, I'll just play the Dilophosaur and just try to keep chipping damage. He may recover if he draws a land here. Him having the removal spell for the big boy there was actually really powerful. Especially if he hits me with a Mind Rot now. That's my biggest fear. Or that. Oh, wow. Talk about a recovery. Now I'm the one that's mana screwed. I have nothing I can cast. Wow. Removal spells are good. I don't know if we know that or not, but it's true. I'm not gonna Soul Seer 1/1. Play a Visionary, draw a card, hope it's a land, probably. Yeah, there we go. I think if he's smart, he has to take the Soul Seer. Soul Seer just kills the freebooter anyway. Now he knows about all my combat tricks too, so... Yep. Wonder if he has a combat trick. Yeah, that's a free 2 damage there, because he doesn't want the freebooter to come down. And if he has the removal for the Punisher, I can't play around that. My deck doesn't have anything to take care of that. So if he just kills the Punisher here, well, then he kills the Punisher. I don't have a choice. Yeah. sucks, but it's a thing. I mean, right now we're racing, so... I'm gonna feel bad if he does have a mind rot, though, now that I think about it. I did this turn because there's a chance that I could Trader's Greed and kill him with his own flying creature if he does not gain any life this turn. I really just try to set up a line where I have lethal in the air if he attacks out. Otherwise, I'm just hoping I top deck something that's not a land. Oh, he just straight conceded. I didn't have lethal unless he was dumb. Okay, I'll take it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe GG feels weird here. Because he started off mana screwed, and then he drew enough removal to make it so that I was mana screwed. Then he interfered with my hand, and then I had nothing to do, but then he wasn't doing much. Well, R-Dubs, the thing is if he does not attack... I guess if he had no creatures in hand, actually. If he had no creatures in hand, you're right. Like, if his hand was just not interaction at all, but... Like, what did he do? Just draw lands from there? Like, that's all he had? I don't know. Because if he kept both blockers back, like, I can wipe his board out, which is, I mean, that is a problem. But then he goes to 1 life if he's smart about how he does things. And then I have 1 creature, that surely he has a way to answer 1 creature. I see your forest, and I match your forest. Oh, planes. Then you have the removal spell back? Yeah, oh, that's true. So I guess if he had a chump blocker, but he didn't have a way to get through... Yeah. Okay. I'll acknowledge that line of play. I'm curious about this this green-white here. This is interesting. No game, I do not want to give him +3/+0 in first strike. Oh my god. He is assembling the Pegasus army. I'm gonna play the Ogre first, because there's a chance that I can play him next turn and see if there's a land on top of my deck. Ooh, that's a Defender. Interesting. I actually don't know what the right play is here. I'm gonna do this anyway. And play the land off the top of my deck, that helps a bit. Alright. I'm not willing to trade this right now. It's just not, I don't think that's a worthwhile trade. If he ends up attacking with it this turn, I'll be sad. Ooh, Selfless Savior. That's cute. That makes me happy. He missed a land drop or two here, huh? Ah. Oh, I should have looked at the top of my deck. I'm really bad at Magic. Oh man, decisions. Ironically, attacking here is kind of bad. The Selfless Savior is a pretty good way to blow out my creatures. Alright, this time I looked, there was no land on top of the deck. So, I think what I can do here, I don't quite blow him out, but I can offer him a chance to kill my Ogre. Yeah, this is a hard choice for him. I don't know how I would block here, to be honest. There's an argument you just put the Pteranodon in front of the Ogre and sack the Savior. Just take 4, or at least take a 4-2 off the board. Because while the Savior's on the board, my combat tricks are pretty much useless. Pressure of time is awful, by the way. How do I want to order the damage? I definitely want to focus on the Pteranodon first, so we'll see. If he lets them trade, I'm actually really happy here. Yeah, I was wondering if he would. Alright, so I lose the Sage here. But then I get to play a big Scourge. I like that it's like, is there a way you want to pay for this? I'm like, well, no. I mean, it's just play it. I just use all my mana, please. With the Savior off the board, though, this turn I can Traitorous Greed the Pteranodon and turn to Slag one of the Pegasus if I want to get a big chunk of damage through. Or, I mean, he can, well, yeah. Wow. Land off the top like a smart person. There we go. Only thing I'm worried about is if he gives somebody protection. So I'm gonna main phase attempt to take control of this. Oh, and that happened automatically. Okay, okay, okay. So let's do red. Let's actually just do this. We'll sure strike this turn if we need to. And he may have a way to just kill something this turn. He's got the 2 mana available. Destroy target tap creature, probably. Yeah. Can't do anything about that. I was a little worried, but I can't just sit back all day, so let's see. Does he have any blocks? Alright, this kills both of his blockers. takes 8. Alright. Alright. Okay. Sometimes you get lucky, guys. That's where we're at right now. So 3-0 with our first draft so far. Red-green, good stuff. Red-green, 4-powered creatures. Beast mode. I will say, with the decks that I like to build a lot of the time, it's really nice to just have big Stompy. Wow, we're playing against Loki. That's a name. Okay. Wonder how tricky they'll actually be. This hand is a perfect curve, though. 2, 3, 4, 5, theoretically. And we're on the draw. There's definitely no reason not to keep this hand. It only got better. Alright. I'm not going to advertise the green yet. There's no reason to. Oh. Alright, this lets you discard your hand until the terminator just to make things unblockable. Okay. Well, first things first. Let's go ahead and hit for 2 damage. And play our 4-power creature here. Interesting. They must have a combat trick. They were trying to get me to trade in a bad way. Alright, so in that case, I think at this point, while I would like to kill that fool, I think I care more about this evasive flyer and pushing 6 damage through this turn. The lower their health can go, the more powerful I feel in the late game. And if they start holding back with their offense here, then I'll know things might be a problem for them. So let's resolve that. That's actually annoying for my Hobble Fiend a little bit, which is kind of sad. They're on the defensive. We have a chance. Oh, I should actually let them attack. Okay. So the Titanic growth is good news in a sense. It does mean that I can kind of be a little aggressive here, but what I'm going to do is take advantage of a turn where they don't attack me to play a decently sized body. A 4/4 is good to have on the board, and I did miss the second green for the other guys, so for 1 white, though, what could they have? I'm gonna see. This is a dangerous attack. They may just want to trade because of the race, but if they have a 1-mana like pump spell I don't know about. Okay, that's a trade I'm okay making here. It's not great, but it's something. The Sky Scanner is just a 1/1 right now, so I'm not super afraid of that. But I either need some sort of relevant play off the top or a green land. I need to be able to play these Sages. They're just sitting in my hand, stinking up the place. Maybe I should make this red. That fits my deck better. I like their dog over here, though. I wonder if they bought the, I wonder if it's the core set one. Oh, cute. I think I have to play this. If I hit the green land from the draw, I'm in really good shape, and if I don't, oh well. Ah, that was perfect. Okay, so now... Okay. I didn't want to gamble on the Titanic Growth here, only because there was a chance they had some way to pump in response or kill in response. I didn't want to risk that. Titanic Growth also serves as a possible removal spell if they play a big body that they block the Wildwood Scourge with. So while it's a temptation to like use my mana efficiently to try to get that damage in, on my next turn I can still cast a Sage and play the Titanic Growth if I don't attack with a Visionary. So I'm trying to actually be mana efficient on my next turn more so than on this turn. Having said that, they have some decisions apparently to make. I don't know if it's a like too little too late kind of mentality they have, or if they just have things that are actually powerful enough. They're at 6 mana, so there are a lot of big hitters in their colors. Okay, so I'll let that resolve. I can't do anything about that. They'll give double flying, which means they are super, super swift. Yeah, I didn't think there would be. Alright, my turn. Ooh. I like that emote for that. The Super Flyers. Alright, +3/+0 and first strike. Oh man. Okay, who's he gonna block? He should not have done that though until Oh, you know what I should have done? I should have attacked with everybody, you know? Could have had lethal here. Oh, I do have lethal, don't I? Alright. Well, that's a thing. Woo-hoo-hoo. Boys and girls of every age, wouldn't you like to see something strange? We are actually cleaning house just a little bit. I don't want to say that and then just lose 3 straight games, but man, have we won our first 4 games of this format. Oh my god. Whew. Ah, now we face the Drunken Master. It is a fighting style of the most elite. Easy keep here. Alright, so Hobble Fiend into Visionary feels good, followed by a couple of spells that are good pumps. We hope the Visionary draws us into something more relevant. There's another Visionary, so that's nice. Do they have counter magic? Not yet, they don't. Alright. Pegasus. I like these kinds of attacks because they have to decide if it's worth trying to block, or if they just want to let me kill their creature and waste a removal spell. That's pretty much a free 2 damage in that situation, so it feels good. The Soul Seer was an excellent pickup there, nice removal. When I play land this turn, I'll be able to hold up Soul Seer and a Sure Strike, or play Visionary and a Sure Strike, so that feels pretty good. Depending on if they decide to do something here. They might capture Sphere. Nope. Watcher of the Spheres can be pretty annoying, but that's okay. What do they have for 2 mana that they're thinking about hitting my Visionary with? That's what I'm worried about right now. They got a lot of thinking going on here. If they do anything to the Visionary, keep in mind I can sacrifice it to the Hobble Fiend itself. Interesting. Okay. It's not the best case scenario, but I think if Ooh. Man, that was unfortunate. Alright. They are gonna win this race very easily, it looks like. We have 7 mana to work with. This is turning into a very strange game where we're slow positioning, trying to get some things figured out, but his evasion is going to give him the ability to continue to really get around me. I really hope he doesn't have that just like 1 or 2 splashed counter spells. That can be really annoying. How do I come back from all this? He's being sorceries is rough. Basically, my goal right now is kill all his flying creatures and hope I can fight back on the ground. I'm at 10 though, it's starting to get a bit difficult. If he has another destroy target tapped creature, I'm going to be in bad shape. The Leafkin is really important to me right now. You have protection from the chosen card name. Ouch. Alright, our army of elves is just going ham now. We just hope he doesn't find a way to kill me this turn. We're in an awkward position. That is literally like... I mentioned earlier that if I played enough games, I would see a card that I wanted to be able to destroy enchantments with. That's brutal. He turned off my Leafkin Avenger's ability to deal damage. I've used pretty much all of my removal spells. There's 1 or 2 left, but... Interesting. I have almost lethal. Sorry for the lack of commentary here. I'm really focused on, like, how is it that he kills me? There are a couple of ways. I can think of a few card combinations right now where I just die. I'm hoping that's not the case, but it is definitely possible. If he doesn't have me this turn, then I think it's my game. I can't think of a way he wins if he does not kill me this turn. Yep, because this guy has lifelink. Alright, so I'm representing 4, 5, 6. That's lethal. You can gain 2. You could probably gain up to a couple. Okay. I wanted to make sure that even if he gained 2 life there. Alright, alright. Whew. If he had some kind of pump spell there, there was a chance that he actually could have gained enough life to survive. Or if he had like a protection spell, so that was actually really dangerous. I will say I'm really glad that I opened a card in my first pack that caught my attention and made me think, yeah, sure, why not? We get a lot of 3-drops and 4-drops, but I'm on the play, so as long as they don't aggro out in the first couple of turns, we're probably fine. My opponent's just a basic mountain anyway, so I mean, what could they possibly do, right? Played an island. Well, that's just some next level stuff right there. And a plains. What? Oh, this kind of deck again? Let's actually draw a card and ramp. The extra mana might be more important. I want to make sure I don't miss land drops as much as possible. And as you can see, I might be doing that. Okay. Okay. So I could have 5 mana to work with this turn, and I think that's what I'm going to go with. Let's go ahead and play the Hobble Fiend. Yep. I played the Fiend. Although the Fiend is long-term better, with this style of deck, an aggressively high-powered creature could be better. So now he has the option of double blocking, which is something he really wants to consider. He did not, though. Alright, so either way, I'm only going to be playing 1 spell this turn. So I'll have 6 mana to work with. Well, I could play 2. I could play a Visionary and an Ogre. Okay, so he was okay taking that damage. I'm just going to double down on my board, I think. Because drawing cards deeper into the deck is probably more important. And the more bodies I have, the harder his deck has to work to stay in the game. Now I say that, he may play some big bombs here soon. He's getting up into the higher mana range. Okay, so that guy's annoying, but he's not amazing. I wonder if he just wanted the card draw. I'm willing to risk a Visionary here. Okay. That's fair. At this point, I hate losing a guy there, but it's a big chunk of damage. And the Trader's Greed can help me push through quite a bit, depending on what he plays. I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, well, that's lethal. Like, okay, seems good. So, okay. What is happening? Hatadani. I don't know what that means, but okay. This is a major gamble, but look at it. It paid off already. All right. We still have to do stuff eventually. Oh man, are you kidding me? They're gonna take the Visionary. Oh no, they took the Titanic Growth? They must be a heavy removal deck. Or they have mindrot or something. Nope. Okay, that's awkward. Alright, they are out-tempoing me really well, so I'm a little worried. But these things happen. I've drawn straight lands since they did the freebooter, so that's exciting. Okay. So I guess their logic was interfere with me as much as possible. Another one, wow. Oh, they do have to hit a non-creature, non-land. That's kind of funny. There's an argument there that it's better to play the other Visionary to dig deeper into the deck, but I think I have to get some power on the board now. And if I can keep him guessing about any of the cards in my hand, that might make a difference. My best bet is that he maybe is just flooding. So I'm willing to see what happens if I do this. Yeah. That sucks. I bet his hand is almost all interactive. So on that note, we're gonna go just play 2 bodies. Try to dig a little deeper before I play my big boy. He knows about the big boy, but if I can keep him guessing at all, I might be able to snap back on the race. So he wants to double block the ogre, is what I'm guessing. Oh man, the auto tapper got me. I was hoping to be able to play the Leafkin Avenger after that, but it double tapped my red mana there when I needed it to do red and green. I'll say I'd be surprised if he attacks here, depending on what's in his hand.
It's actually not worth attacking here. I hate to say it, but it's true. If he does not kill the Leafkin Avenger, though, this could become a problem. Let it land off the top there. Did he not read the card? He just let me kill him. What? Guys. Guys. It happened. We're gonna go ahead and grab a screenshot of that one. I was thinking of some things I could try to do here, but wow. Reading must, yeah. 7-0. 7-0.